Yo, Sean Kober here of Performance Functional Training. Today's exercise tutorial, I'm going to be taking you guys through the plank. Now the plank is an excellent exercise for developing strength and stability throughout the entire chain. However, one thing that I see people doing and people being taught is that they get into this neutral spine position. Alright, now the neutral spine position is typically a good thing in most exercises. However, if you come into a plank with common issues like tight hip flexors and things like that, then that's just going to reinforce these poor patterns and poor positions that you have. Now, the first thing we need to know about the plank, or in particular the body, is that it's a system of muscles that operate together. So we want to integrate the systems, not isolate the systems. Now, a common issue with society these days is something called lower cross syndrome. This is basically where the muscles of the hip flexors become short and tight because your body adapts to whatever you do. If you spend a lot of time sitting throughout the day, these muscles shorten up to try and conserve energy. Now, when I see people doing a typical plank, they say neutral position. What happens when you're holding that neutral position or that neutral spine is the hip flexors actually become stabilizers of the hips. So they're already short and tight. Now you're just reinforcing that pattern. Your hip flexors become short and tight. What happens when you stand up is your iliopsoas goes through the pelvis and attaches to the lumbar spine. So as you stand up, these muscles are short and tight. That then pulls your pelvis into an anterior pelvic tilt. That then puts strain on the lumbar erectors because they're having to work hard to compensate and hold the spine, stabilize the spine in the right position. So the plank that I'm going to teach you guys today is going to get you into a posterior pelvic tilt. So now we can start strengthening through transverse abdominis in particular and through the hip extensors, primarily our glutes. So again, tight hip flexors, tight lumbar, weak hip extensors, weak abs. All right, so what we're going to do is focus on getting you into a posterior pelvic tilt. This is basically where we're switching off, switching off, switching on, switching on. So I'm basically going to tilt the tailbone under, shorten the distance between belly button and sternum. Now my glutes are on, now my abs are on. All right, so this is the position that we're going to be looking for the plank. So let's go through the setup of the plank and then I'll demonstrate how this is going to look. All right, so what I want to do is get down in a typical plank position. We're going to set up like so. I personally like to have my hands in this position. It'll make more sense in a moment. We're going to use the law of irradiation. This is basically, if I want to get certain muscles firing, I can get all the surrounding muscles firing, and that's going to give me a much stronger contraction. So this is what I'm looking at. I'm down in the plank position, hands interlocked, elbows directly underneath the shoulders, stacking the joints. My feet are together. Right, from here, neutral spinal position. Then what I'm going to do, tuck the tailbone under, shorten the distance between belly button and sternum. Boom, abs are on, glutes are on. All right, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and drag my elbows and my toes together. So I'm kind of like trying to scrunch. Even just holding this position here, I'm straining, all right, I'm shaking hard. So I'm looking at holding for minimum 15 seconds up to 30 seconds. If you can hold that longer than 30 seconds, you're probably not doing it correctly. The goal is to try and squeeze and contract everything, create as much tension throughout the entire body as you can. We want to accumulate roughly 2 to 3 minutes work. So if you can do 30 seconds, right, you're looking at 4 to 6 sets. You might do 30 seconds, rest for a minute. Do another 30 seconds, rest for a minute. Do that for 2 to 3 minutes. If you can only do that for 15 seconds, 10 seconds, okay, that's fine. Have a rest, go again until you've accumulated that 2 to 3 minutes. Let's have a look at what this is actually going to look like. All right, so I set myself up, interlock the fingers, elbows underneath the shoulders, my feet come together for law of radiation. Then what I'm going to do, tuck the tailbone under, squeeze my abs, think about pulling my elbows and my toes together, and create as much tension as you can. You can see that I'm shaking in this position. All right, this is the RKC plank. Excellent for strength and stability, but primarily what we're looking at doing is starting to connect our hip extensors with our transverse abdominis to stabilize the pelvis and the spine. Boom, create tension from top to bottom. Give that a go.